what we're going to be doing is every week we're going to be holding trainings. One is going to be on a class. One is going to be about movement and other concepts of squad play, range bombs, so on. We're starting this week with the support Firebrand class, and I'm going to go over a few things. What the Firebrand's role is, what are the sort of the basic 2 builds that are the meta right now, and I'm going to go over the skills that are being used for those builds and some alternatives for specific situations. Then we're going to go over a few combinations of skills used in sort of blocks of rotations, because that's true for other professions as well, but very much for the Firebrand especially, that there isn't a single rotation that you can go to and keep with it that's going to get you through all situations. Different situations call for different skill combinations. And of course, recognizing those situations or getting your cues from the tag that gives you commands is important, but knowing which skills go together in a specific situation is important as well. So I'm going to start out with the role of the Firebrand. The Firebrand is the core of any sub-squad, and by extension of any squad in WvW. It is the most important piece of the sub-squad for the basic reason that is the main profession that provides stability for the sub-squad. Stability is omni-important in WvW. Without stability, the squad cannot fight well enough to be able to achieve its goals. So, because the Firebrand is unique in that respect, being able to deliver a lot of stability on demand, that's why it is the most core build that you need in any sub-squad and in any squad. The Firebrand also delivers a lot of boons. It also delivers damage reduction. It can do cleanses, and it can do a lot of healing as well. These are all things it can bring to the table. So while it brings the most DPS, it can bring a lot of other things to the table. Now, in terms of healing, there's other professions that can do better. In terms of cleansing, there's other professions that can do better. In terms of damage reduction, there's other professions that can do better. However, the Firebrand can still do those things quite well, and in combination with the fact that it brings stability, makes it a really important class. So I'm going to start with the build. There's 2 builds really, but I'm going to go first and foremost over the build we use, the Aegis Quickness Firebrand, and then I will touch upon the Heal Firebrand afterwards. Now, let me just open this, and if I can remember how to ping it. What was it? Shift? Nope, that's not it. How was it to copy the actual build? There we go. All right. So this is the Aegis Quickness Firebrand build, and I'm gonna go over the traits real quick and explain why they're being picked, and then I'll just go over a couple of potential alternatives here. So the 3 trait lines are Honor, Valor, and Firebrand, of course. In the Honor trait line, you're picking Invigorated Bulwark that adds outgoing healing. You're picking also Pure of Heart that provides healing every time an Aegis that you have given to yourself or to anybody else gets activated. So any Aegis you give that blocks, even on other people, not yourself, when the Aegis blocks, they get healed. So this is a very, very strong healing skill. There is no CD on it. And as an Aegis Firebrand, you are providing a lot of Aegis. So if you're using your Aegis, your skills that provide Aegis well, most of them are being applied, and most of them are blocking shots from the enemy. You're actually providing a lot of healing. And the last one is a little bit of a choice here. Mostly, I prefer the Pure Voice because it will convert conditions into boons on your shouts. We'll go over later the utilities that you have on your skill bar because, well, actually, they're up top on the build. You can see them. So, Advance and Stand Your Ground are both shouts. While you are consuming some of these things before battle, in battle, they're also going to do conversions. Now, it's important that they do conversions when they're cleansing conditions because you're not taking away from the scrapper then. The scrappers are converting all conditions they cleanse, and that's a 2-for-1. You're taking away conditions and you're also giving boons at the same time. So when you have that trait, Pure Voice, whatever conditions are being cleansed by your utilities, by your shout utilities that you have on your utilities bar, are also going to do a convert, and that way you're not taking away condies that the scrapper otherwise would convert into boons. Now, an alternative here is Writ of Persistence or Force of Will. Writ of Persistence gives additional healing from your symbols, which could be beneficial in certain situations, but it's not as good as Pure Voice. And the one that's really good is actually Force of Will. This is a good skill to put if you're having trouble surviving, for example, which under normal circumstances shouldn't be a case. But if you're new to a Firebrand and you're still getting used to, it's not a bad skill to pick. If you pick it, your HP will go by a lot, and it will increase your healing quite a bit as well, because it gives you 300 vitality and gives you 10% healing to others. Now, the additional 300 vitality will also proc a bigger healing bonus from your utility, which we'll go over later. So those are the main two choices here, which would be Pure Voice or Force of Will. In the Valor trade line, there isn't really much of a choice here, but I will go over them really quickly. Strength of the Fallen, it essentially gives you a bit of a boost when you get down for your health to degenerate slower, and you get some condi clearance. It helps to survive if you get downed. However, because usually at this point, if you're down, that means usually the people in the rest of your sub squad are probably dead at that point. So that's not as important. Unfortunately, there isn't really any better alternatives here. We do not use a focus, so focus mastery is not useful. And the lesser smite conditions are only useful if you use meditations in your utilities, which we do not use. So for that reason, it is the Strength of the Fallen. On the second trait line, we have two possibilities. I'll explain why we pick Communal Defenses. The other possibilities is Strength in Numbers, which is which applies additional toughness to the people in your sub squad. And because it has a ICD of 3 seconds, but it lasts 6 seconds, it is constant while you're in combat. So in combat, you're increasing the toughness of everybody in your subgroup by 100 toughness. For you, that doesn't matter. That is very small. Your toughness is very high. But for the DPS classes in your subgroup, that's a lot. That could be 10% or even more in the case of the Berserker Warrior when they go into Berserker mode and lose additional toughness. That could be more than 10% of their total toughness, which decreases the damage they take by just increasing their toughness. However, because we're building a build here that is based on Aegis, and as we said, every time Aegis is procced that we deliver, we also heal. We use Communal Defenses. Now, this has a 15-second cooldown, so it is not applied always. However, it has the good bonus that going into combat, you're going to go into combat with everybody having Aegis, and when you get hit for the first time and you block an attack, Communal Defenses will proc right away. So the immediate result in going into combat is the first time you get hit, you reapply Aegis right away. So that's two Aegis on engagement in combat, which is pretty powerful. After that, you can start using other skills to apply Aegis again. In the third trait line, there is a couple of things here. Again, Monk's Focus is not very useful because we do not use meditation skills. The Altruistic Healing does healing to yourself when you deliver boons to others, and it can be pretty powerful. However, as the player usually within the subgroup with the highest toughness and with a decent health pool, you're usually the one that needs the least healing. So this skill is only if you tag on a Firebrand and you're being put under a lot of pressure. Then you can take it for a little bit of extra healing, but you shouldn't really need it. Now, the Tenacious Defenses is very key trait here, because every time Aegis you grant to yourself or to anybody else that blocks an attack, it recharges your tone 3 by 1 second. Now, the cooldown on your tone 3 is about 75 seconds. So that could be a long. Most battles will be decided between 1 and 2 minutes. The vast amount of battles last out long. Some will go a little bit longer. Few will go less. But that means that within a battle, you will get to use your tone 3 probably a maximum of 2 times. Now, when you use Aegis in this trait, you can recharge your tome potentially within 25 seconds. So it gives you the ability to get back into tone 3 about 2 to 3 times more in a battle, which is very, very powerful. Now that's of course if Aegis is being used correctly and efficiently. So this is the reason for having the Valor trait to begin with, the additional Aegis proccing, and the ability to recharge your tone 3 very quickly. There's also the other passives. I'm not going to go over them. You can see them. They are not something that you can choose, but they also bring something to the table. Now on the Firebrand trait line, there's a couple of things here, a couple of choices that can be made. On the first choice, we are going with the Liberator's Vow, and I'll explain in a second one. The alternative is the Archivist of Whisperers. The Archivist of Whisperers gives you extra 3 pages when you go into your tomes. Instead of 5, you have 8, which is a very good trait. It brings a lot to the table because those skills in your tomes are usually high value skills. And because your tome take a long time to recharge, having those extra 3 is a big bonus. However, the one tome that you need the most as a support Firebrand is tome 3, which will bring out stability, Aegis, protection, and add toughness. It will give resistance from different skills in different situation, and you also have a reflect. So these are all very high value skills, and because we can recharge the tome 2 to 3 times faster by good utilization of Aegis, we can sacrifice the trait that gives us the extra 3 pages for the trait Liberator's Vow, which gives us quickness. Now, this trait has a 7 seconds ICD, so it can only proc every 7 seconds, and it gets procced when you use your heal skill. The good thing on the Firebrand is that on your heal skill, you can choose a mantra which has 3 charges, and it recharges every 12 seconds. So, essentially, every 12 seconds, you can be applying, while in battle, every 12 seconds, you can be applying quickness. And because you're going into battle with 3 charges already, essentially for about 50 seconds, you can be applying quickness every 7 seconds or every 8 seconds without a problem. Now, I'll explain why I say every 8 seconds in a second as well. But this is a very powerful skill because it will proc abilities on other professions. It quickens the casting of skills, which is important for some DPS professions, like Revenants, like Weavers, for example. They get to cast their skills faster, so they do not get caught standing in a spot as long. In addition, the Revenant, with a trait that allows them to strip stability with every hit they make, as long as they have quickness, this becomes a very important skill. If you, as the Firebrand, can provide quickness all the time, you're making it a lot easier to crowd control the enemy in front of you. And that is a big, big, big bonus. So even though you're doing mostly a support role, you can actually support the offensive role of your sub-squad as well. The second role is, again, Stalwart Speed, the alternative being Legendary Lore. Legendary Lore will give you a little bit of extra boons from your tomes, but it's not as good as Stalwart Speed for the absolutely same reason. Now, the key to Stalwart Speed is that every time you grant Aegis or Stability, you also grant Quickness.
Hey, Stoich.
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt, but SF needs to fit on the map. They asked us if we can move off real quick.
Okay.
For the training.
Okay. Let's go to, let's see. Let's go Home Bale. Home Bale. Go to Citadel. Begin a squad, please. Sorry about that. Okay, let me just open it again because I was looking at it so I don't lose my train of thought. Okay, so Stalwart Speed will proc every 7 seconds as well. Now, as a Firebrand, you're giving out Aegis or Quickness almost constantly, so this skill will be procced pretty much on cooldown. As soon as it comes off cooldown, it will get procced again. There is a little bit of a efficiency use here that is very important, that as you get better can be very, very powerful as well in managing quickness. The fact that your Mantra of Solace, which is this skill, your heal mantra, applies Aegis, and at the same time is a heal skill. So whenever, if none of these two have been procced yet, when you use your Mantra of Solace, you will proc both of these traits and automatically apply both of those quickness. So as you can well, you can't see, but when you have a high boon duration on the Firebrand, which we'll look over afterwards and we'll find out that we can get it to 100%, then that skill will apply 4 seconds of quickness, each of them, each traits. So with one use of your Mantra of Solace, which is your heal skill, just one charge, you're applying 8 seconds of quickness, and the two skills have 7 seconds to recharge. So as long as you're using one heal skill every 8 seconds, you have 100% uptime and quickness. Of course, quickness can get stripped like any other boon, so you're not gonna have 100% uptime during battle, but you will have close to it. Often you will see 90% and up quickness uptime in battles because of these two traits. The last one, and that one is not much of a choice. We don't really have a choice. That's the Lore Master. It reduces the recharge time of your tomes by 33%. That is just too high of a value to even consider the other two choices as a support Firebrand. I'm going to go now over the actual skills and weapons really quickly. What you have as weapons is Mace Shield and Staff. The Staff has a few skills that are important. You have the Empower skill. This skill you use to stack stacks of might before engagement in battle. Now, they don't last too long. However, this is one of the sources for might outside of combat, and the reason for it to be applied is because a lot of professions can provide might, but most of them do it when in combat. So before combat, you stack this to get additional damage on that first hit. Additionally, you have the two Staff 3 and Staff 2. Symbol of Swiftness applies swiftness. In this build, it's not as important for us. However, it's a good skill where you can drop it while out of combat on top of us and stack about 30 seconds of swiftness, which can last us a long time. Then you have Holy Strike, which is a heal skill, but it's also, more importantly, your blast finisher. So whenever there is a call out for stealth, for example, this is what you're using, Holy Strike on top of the field. Now, because sometimes people will drop light fields or other fields, a smoke field is about this size big. You can put your Holy Strike somewhere on the side, on the edges of it to hit it, outside of any other light field that might have been dropped. That way, you're not proccing the actual light field, you're hitting the smoke field. The last important skill here is skill 5, which is your line of warding. It is a CC. It also is a light field, and it's used for crowd control. It's either used when the enemy is trying to push into you. You can place it in front of them as a means to blunt their push, or in the middle of their squad as a means to try and split their squad or isolate their back line. Create a hole between their front tanking group and their DPS backline, and then you can attack the backline. It additionally can be used with range spikes. It's actually very well to be done. So for example, right there on the marker, we're doing a range spike and we're dropping our lines, and then we're doing the range spike on top of it. Now for the Firebrand, even though you're not going to do much damage, when we're doing range spike, it's good to use your symbol of swiftness, which is 3, and your Holy Strike, which is 2, to help your DPS players by hitting the enemy and stripping Aegis off of it. Those two skills are not going to do much in terms of damage, but they will consume Aegis on the enemy. The same thing for the line of warding. You're looking to consume stability off of them. Okay, now for the Mace Shield. In the Mace Shield, there's really 3 main skills. This is skill 3 on your mace, skill 4 on your shield, and skill 5 on your shield. Skill 3 on your mace, it grants protection and it gives you Aegis. It's a long-lasting skill, so it gives you a long duration for it. You get the shields around you, and this whole time you're blocking. Skill 4 also gives you protection, and it gives you Aegis as well. And the difference is that skill 4 is a lot like your mantras. It's a cone in front of you, and it reaches 450 length, while around and behind you it's only 180. And when we go to the utilities, I'll explain the importance of knowing that and how to manage that fact. Now, skill 5 is the shield. This is a block, basically blocks all projectiles. It lasts 4 seconds, and it can be stopped before it runs out for a heal. So ideally, you want to pop it, and about 3 seconds in, pop it a second time, so you do a heal as well. Now, in addition to that, it's also crowd control. So you can use it to knock people off and back. Be conscious of that, however, because at times that is exactly what you don't want to do. So, for example, if we're pushing into a group on the marker and the attack is called for pulls, they have been pulled, well, at that point you don't want to pop your shield 5 and just spread them out all over the place again, because we have concentrated them to concentrate our bomb on them. On the other hand, if the enemy is pushing into us, for example, and at that point you can pop it, whoever doesn't have stability will get knocked back to the side, and we'll split them up. Additionally, if you're a small squad going into a bigger group, you can pop those to actually spread them in all directions and break their cohesion. At that point, they're easy to pick off piece by piece. So it's a powerful skill, but it is used in specific situation. It's not one that you use in every situation.
So the knockback applies when you start the skill, or whenever anyone tries to cross the edge of it?
Both. So
Okay.
if you pop it and somebody tries to run at you, they're gonna bounce off of it if they don't have stability. But
All right.
But whenever you pop it, you'll just knock back anybody that falls within its range. Again, if they don't have stability. And it will consume stability off of them, of course, because it's a CC, and when that's applied, basically your one stack of stability is being consumed to negate it. It will not, however, it's not pulsing, so if a person has stability and you pop it and then they're inside the circle afterwards, they're not going to be knocked back then. Now, into the utilities. There is a couple of alternatives that I'll go over, but first I'll go over the utilities that are important. So you have the Mantra of Solace, and you have the Mantra of Liberation, and you have Stand Your Ground. These 3 are essentially you're going to have on your bar no matter what. There really isn't a choice when it comes to the Firebrand about these 3 skills. If you're running a Firebrand in a support role, you have these 3 skills. The Mantra of Solace, you have to know, however, that it is not a heal skill. In terms of, it is called a heal skill, and it is in the place of a heal skill, and it will do some small healing for yourself. However, you're not using it as a heal skill. You're using it as a support skill for your sub squad. Every time you use it, you're applying Aegis and you're giving quickness. The healing to yourself is irrelevant, so you're not using the skill whenever you need healing. You're using it whenever your sub squad needs Aegis. If the sub squad is doing fine without the need for an Aegis, you can even save it and just use it for whenever you need to replenish the quickness. But the management of this skill is for your sub squad. It's never for you. This mantra is not being used for you. It's for your sub squad. Of course, if you're about to go down, if you're about to die, you use skills. It's better to use skills than to die without having used skills. However, under normal circumstances, you're looking at the people in your sub squad, and then you're using this skill whenever they need Aegis or to apply quickness. The Mantra of Liberation, which is the elite skill, is also pretty much non-negotiable because it applies stability and it also applies resolution. The combination of the two is important because resolution lowers the amount of damage taken from damage dealing conditions, and the stability, of course, we know that it is pretty much the most important boon we can have. Now, in addition to that, this skill is also an AoE stun break. So if anybody in your sub squad, and not only in your sub squad, gets stunned, you can break them out of stun yourself, even if they don't have a stun break themselves. So it is very important to keep one charge of the Mantra of Liberation for a situation when you might need to stun break. It is good to have on a push, for example, we're pushing towards the marker, right? And then you can turn, pop one behind, and keep moving just to stun break anybody that gets caught on the tail. Now, don't focus on that necessarily if you're not comfortable enough with movement yet on the Firebrand, but it is something to strive for eventually. Stand Your Ground is basically the skill that will apply 5 stacks of stability. So on any big push, on any big engagement where there's gonna be fighting within enemy bomb, within enemy damage, whether that will be a range bomb from them that we expect to be hit with, or we're going to push into them, or they're going to push into us, that is the skill you need to pop. The reason for that is there's a lot of CC skills that can be used, and they are all going to consume stacks of stability. One stack of stability cannot stop a coordinated bomb, and people will still get interrupted and CC'd into place. So for that reason, you need to stand your ground. Now, additionally, we use Hallowed Ground and Advance. Hallowed Ground is pretty much mandatory in the current meta as well because of its utility. Now, this is a skill that you place on the ground. It stays wherever you place it, and it gives pulsing stability, but it also gives pulsing resolution, which means lowering Condi damage. Now, this is a skill that's used in specific situations as well. For example, if we're gonna bunker down, they're pushing into us, we're gonna drop damage at our feet, we're gonna bunker down, we can drop Hallowed Ground at our feet, and it will help to stop conditions, stop CCs impeding our ability to move. It can also be used to be placed in a choke if we want to push through a choke. For example, with Augurs, when we're pushing into Ogre's camp, going through that choke is very hard because the enemy can place a lot of damage, a lot of CCs on that small choke, and there's no way to avoid it. You have to go through it. Dodging is one way. However, you can also additionally put down the Hallowed Ground, and that helps with reapplying stability. Advance is a little bit different. That's not absolutely necessary. However, because we're focusing on Aegis in this build, Advance is a very good skill to have. It applies 1 stack of Aegis, which can last up to 35 seconds, I believe. Even a little bit longer. I think 37 is the maximum, maybe. Or actually 40 seconds is the maximum. So if you pop it before going into combat, that means your whole sub-squad has Aegis before going into combat. 1 stack of Aegis, it's there. It's gonna block the first hit. When you block your first hit, you're gonna proc a second Aegis for everybody in your sub-squad. So having that means that going into combat, the first 2 hits on everybody in your sub-squad will be blocked if they're not conned. That is very, very, very powerful. It has 2 charges, and it recharges every 24 seconds. That is key because you're applying 40 seconds of swiftness while the charge recharges in 24 seconds. So out of combat, you can be popping this on cooldown. As soon as you have 2 stacks, you pop 1, and your squad will have constant swiftness. You might never need to apply swiftness from other sources. Now, that is, of course, as long as it's not getting stripped. If it gets stripped, then it needs to be reapplied. Now, I'll go over really quickly a few of the alternatives. One of the alternatives is Mantra of Lore, which is this skill. Sorry, there. This is if you need additional cleansing, and this is a skill you would have on if you're running the heal brand, support brand. If you're doing more healing and more cleansing, this is the skill you're going to be using. It has 3 charges. It puts regeneration, but more importantly, it cleanses 2 conditions for every mantra use. So if you have 3 charges and all of a sudden you're being overwhelmed, your scrapper got down or is not being able to cope with all the conditions, you can pop them in quick succession and get rid of up to 6 conditions. And it recharges very quickly. So it is a powerful skill. However, in the Aegis build, it does not give us enough utility, especially because these conditions are only cleansed. They're not converted into boons the way the Scrapper would. So we're counting on the Scrapper to do that for us, and if they're able to do it efficiently enough, we shouldn't need this skill. However, it is there, and it is important to know. Additionally, there is the Sanctuary. This one is with very few uses currently in WvW. It's a light field, and it blocks missiles. It can be placed anywhere, and it pulses. So this is useful if you're sieging somewhere. You can place it as a means to block projectiles. However, it's on a long cooldown, so its utility is small. It does some healing, and it is a life field, so if it's combined with blast finishers, it will do a lot of cleanses. Again, utility not that much in WvW right now. There is the Wall of Reflection, which is this skill. This one has some specific use. Again, not as much utility. However, if an enemy group has composition that has a lot of projectiles, it's a skill that can be used. It can be placed in front, very much the way you're putting the line of warding. 2 CC. It will block projectiles, it will block enemies, and so on. So it can be used to separate a squad in 2, very much like the line of warning, with that additional fact that it will block projectiles as well, and it's a light field. It will reflect projectiles, sorry. It's not going to block them only, it's going to reflect them back. So, for example, if you have a lot of weavers shooting at you, you can just pop this in front, and it will reflect everything back at them. It has a pretty long cooldown, 25 seconds. So again, usefulness is very situational. There's a couple of mobility skills, which is Merciful Intervention and Judge's Intervention. They're not as useful nowadays. Merciful Intervention does some healing, but it doesn't really res anymore. It is a mobility skill you can use to get back to the squad if you get separated. If you're having problems staying with the squad while you're learning, you can have this on your bar, and it will basically teleport you to anybody within the squad. It has to be targeted on top of a friendly character, however. It cannot. It's not just, you cannot put it on an empty ground and it will not teleport you. Has a long cooldown too, 40 seconds. So not enough utility really to have it. The other important skill is Signet of Mercy. And this is one that is gaining more and more prominence right now. It is a little tricky to use. However, unlike the illusion from the Chronos, which lasts for 14 seconds, and then you might need that the person might go back into down state, you might need to res him, or they have to kill somebody to stay up. This one will straight up res somebody from a down state. Now it has a long channel time, however, it's 2 seconds. It has a very long recharge in 90 seconds. It does give the bonus of 120 concentration when passive, but the use of it is a little tricky. It's only 180 distance around the center of it, so it has to be placed very well for it to be useful, and it has to be placed very timely, because 2 seconds is a long time. Usually people that go down will be finished before 2 seconds are gone, or within 3-4 seconds. So its use is usually anticipating. If you see somebody in your sub squad that is very low, you're unable to heal them, or somebody isn't, there isn't an option to heal them back up, and you see that they're about to go down, you can place it on top of them, and as soon as they go down, they'll get raised. But this is very much a timing. The other thing is, while it's being channeled, if you don't need it anymore, if the person gets away, gets healed or whatnot, you can cancel it. Just use another skill, dodge or whatnot, and you can cancel the skill, so that it goes on a small cooldown, not the big cooldown. All right. Now, what else? Now,
were you going to go through the tomes?
Right. Tomes. That was the next one. Sorry. Okay, so we're going to go through all the tomes one by one very quickly. There isn't much important information here other than explaining the skills. It's straightforward. When you go into Tome 3, the two most important skills are Skill 5, Epilogue of Unbroken Line, Skill 4, Stalwart Stand. Now, Unbroken Lines applies 200 toughness to everybody in your sub-squad for 5 seconds. Again, for you, that doesn't mean pretty much anything. It does help, but it's not that important. It is important for the DPS classes in your sub-squad. 200 toughness, it is the equivalent of reducing the damage they take by 20% or more. In addition to that, it also gives protection, which lowers damage by another 33%. It gives stability, and it gives Aegis. So this is probably the most powerful skill the Firebrand has. So whenever you're going into Tome 3 and we're pushing into anybody, or they're pushing into us, that is the first skill we're popping. It has a very wide range as well, the radius of 600, and this one will affect pretty much everybody in your sub squad. If they're not affected, they're way off tag, and they need to improve their positioning. The second one, Stalwart Stand, has less of a radius. It's only 360. It looks like that. It's dropped at your feet. However, the really key point to it is that it applies resistance. Now, resistance is not as important as it used to be because it doesn't negate damage anymore. However, it still negates movement impeding conditions. So, immobile, slow, chill, all of these get basically negated. They do not get cleansed, they're still on, and once the effect from resistance wears off, they will kick in. However, this buys time for your scrappers to clean those conditions. It also means that when we're pushing through, or we are being pushed on, this will stop these movement impeding conditions from affecting our squad. It pulses 3 times, so it applies the resistance over and over, and with full bloom duration, that's 2 seconds of resistance. 3 pulses is up to 6 seconds of resistance, which is a lot. The third important skill here is Chapter 3, Valiant Bulwark. This is a reflect. You can use it same as the as Sanctuary on your utility, except this one is on a charge and it has a quick recharge. Again, it's only a reflect, however, so this is only situational. Under siege, if the enemy has a lot of reflects, it's not a CC, so that's its use. You can drop it on top of somebody that throws out projectiles, and they'll hit the inside of it and just basically suicide themselves. Now, skill 1, Unflinching Charge, is a quick stab and swiftness that you can give out. It is in a cone in front, like the mantras. However, this is only to be used in a bind. If you don't have any other sources of stability left and you need to give stability to somebody in your sub-squad, you can pop one of those or a couple of those quickly. They are low value for the use of a charge of your tome, however. You try to not do it. Tome 2, there is a couple of important skills here, and we'll go over them. Again, it's mostly 1, 2, and 3. 3, 4, and 5, sorry. So 5 is a skill that converts conditions into boons. Converts 2 conditions into boons. In addition, it increases your heal effectiveness a lot by 20% for 8 seconds. So if you need to burst heal, you're in Tome 2. You pop 5 first, and then any other healing. 4 is your big water well. It's going to do some healing, but more importantly, it's going to place a water well at your feet that can then be blasted. So when you're doing that, however, make sure to call it out so people know that the water is being used and they can use their blast finishers. That is the way the Firebrand can generate a burst healing. They don't have burst healing themselves. This is the way. Number 3 is to grant some boons really quickly. Basically, you give vigor, regen, and swiftness. Most of the time, this is not as important. However, vigor can be important in a situation where we're needing to reposition really quickly, in quick succession. We've used up, as a squad, all our dodges. Just popping it, you can direct it, can help regenerate endurance faster so that we can regain those dodges and we can keep on dodging out of damage. 2, we'll remove conditions and we'll do a little bit of healing. So it's a skill wherein you need healing in a bind and you don't have chapter 4 available. You can use 2, and 1 is a healing in front of you in a cone, which is again if you're in a bind and you're healing, or if you're, for example, finishing with this book quickly, you can just pop those really quickly, pop them off, and then go out of the book. You're not going to be staying in this book very long, usually, you're gonna use it on occasion when additional cleansing is needed or when additional healing is needed. For example, if we need to push through a lot of wells on the ground, you can place a water well on top of them, which would be skill 4. That can be blasted and that can sustain going through wells. Now, Tome 1, you're not going to be on very often. This is your tome for some crowd control and mostly for getting tags on the enemy. Main skills here. 5. If you pop this, everybody in your sub-squad, next time they attack, they're going to inflict burning. And because you've given them the Ashes of the Just effect, you get credit for any hits they do. So that helps you get tags. Chapter 4, this puts down a fire field with burning. If they go into it, they burn. This is a good skill. It will put out quite a bit of burning, even as a support. And the most important, however, here is Chapter 3, which is your pull. Now, the pull has a small radius, and it doesn't do that much, but it is useful, especially when the enemy doesn't have any more stability. It can also group up downs. So, for example, we have downs all around that marker in front of us. We place the pull. And it will group them up in the center, and then they can be easily cleaved. 2 and 1. 2 will place some weakness. So when you run through a group, you can pop it. It will do some burning, some weakness. And 1 is a cone in front for fire. Usually what you're going to do when you're going into Tome 1 is pop 5. Maybe do a pull, pop 4, and 1 and 2. Just keep popping them until you have consumed everything. Can you hear me better now? Or is it still going low?
Yeah, now it's better.
Okay. Tome 1 is one that you're going mostly into at the end of battles when the enemy is broken to get your tags. That's how you get your bags. Most of the time you'll be in Tome 3, on occasions in Tome 2. Now I'm gonna go over a basic set of skills that you go through on engagements. So, for example, we're stacked, we're gonna be engaging, the tag will say symbols and empowers. So you're using 3 and 4. Usually by the time the pulses on 3 and 4 are done, it will be at the same time. We're ready, we have swiftness and stability. With our build, you can pop advance as well beforehand, so you have that long Aegis set up, and now you have a minute of swiftness, and you don't have to worry about that. On a range spike, we're approaching, we're using our lines, and we're losing Symbol of Swiftness, and we're losing Holy Strike if we have them available, along with the DPS. And when we're pushing into the enemy, we're doing our approach now. We have gained the advantage. We're going to do our push. At that point, initially, you want 1 stack of stability, so you might have Small Stab, which is one of your elite charges, and you're popping your Mantra of Solace to apply quickness. Once we are about to engage, we're going to go into damage. We're within melee range. Then we're popping Stand Your Ground to apply the additional stacks of stability, so we can survive anything they put in our way. Or we can also pop the Hallowed Ground on top of the enemy while we're going into it, so that we have the stability pulsing for us there. At that point, you're switching out of your staff and you're going into Mace Shield. The reason for that is you're going to be popping your skill 4 first on your shield to apply protection and to apply another Aegis. After that, you're popping your Mace 3. Again, for additional protection and another Aegis. You might use Shield 5, depending on the situation. You might not. After you've popped those, you're going into Tome 3. At this point, we should be on top of the enemy. At this point, you're popping Epilogues of Unbroken Lines. This is 5, and you're popping 4 as well. This should give you enough stability, and it will give the resistance so that nobody is impeded. After that, you're going into using your mantras to buy time between your skills. Usually you'll be using 5 and 4 together. Sometimes you won't need 4, so you can skip it and keep it for a important moment, but usually you'll be using them together. So you're using 5 on cooldown in that situation. It has a 10-second cooldown, so you're gonna be using it on cooldown while you're in Tome 3. You're using 3 whenever needed. It's situational. However, those are the 2 that you're gonna be using the most. Once you're out of Tome 3, you will be back to your Mace and Shield, and you're gonna go 4-3 again as needed. And at that point, your Tome 3 will be on recharge. You can go into Tome 2, do some cleanses, healing, whatnot. If you're out of all the tomes, after you're done with Tome 2, you'll be back into Mace Shield. You might need to switch to your staff at some point if we have pulled off to the side and we need to re-empower. However, if you're in Tome 3 especially, do not go out of the tome to switch to the staff. Only if you're not into Tome 3. You can cut short Tome 2 to go to staff. Tome 1, of course, is being only used for very small amounts of time. You can discharge that to go into staff. But if you're in Tome 3, don't discharge it for going into staff. And you're mostly staying in Mace Shield for the duration of the battle, unless empowers are being called. Then you're switching to staff. You're doing empowers quickly, and on cooldown you're going back into Mace Shield if you're not in the tome, because the Mace Shield, it gives you Aegis on both 3 and 4, and it gives you protection that you're reapplying. Your mantras are buying you time in the meantime, whenever you need it. You're using your healing mantra again for Aegis and quickness, and you're using your elite mantra to give you additional stability and stun breaks whenever needed. Stand your ground, you're waiting for a call out for it. Usually the call out will be Big Stab, or sometimes the call out will be stand your ground. Those are reserved for pushing into damage or when others are pushing into us. So even during a fight, if we've pushed in and then we are a little to the side and now we are ranging downs, at that point, even if you have it available, don't pop it then. If you need stab then, use your elite mantra, or use your 5 skill on your Tome 3, or in worst case, use number 1 on Tome 3. Don't use your stand your ground. Now they're pushing back into us, then we're popping stand your ground. Or we're pushing into them and we're popping stand your ground. Okay, any questions so far?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
How much stacks of stability can you get?
I think the maximum is 25. But there is no reason to have more than 5, 6, 7 at a time, because if the enemy strips you, it doesn't matter how many stacks of stability you have. You can have 25 stacks of stability. One strip takes them all away, and they're all wasted. So you want to have multiple stacks of stability for that moment when you can be overwhelmed with CCs, and they're going to consume stacks of stability in quick succession. However, you don't want to have too many because you're risking not using them. And additionally, if they do not get consumed, they expire eventually and they haven't been used. So do not overstack stacks of stability. It's important to have it, but not to overdo it. The same thing for Aegis, for example. Aegis doesn't stack in stacks, however. Aegis is just applied. You have it once and its duration. If you apply Aegis a second time, while there is Aegis already, it's not going to add another stack of Aegis, it's just going to extend the duration of the Aegis. So that is important in managing these two. That these are the two most important boons that you give. So managing them correctly to make the full use of them is really the key to good support with the Firebrand. All right, I think this went on for a lot longer than I anticipated. It's been an hour.
Lot to cover. Yeah, it's a lot to cover.
All right. Any other questions?
Can I re-roll to something less complicated?
If you have any additional questions, if anything is unclear, and if you need additional help, don't hesitate. Ask me. I'll set aside a little bit of time. I'll go and show you in a little bit more detail different situations and so on. Don't hesitate. We have a channel for that.
I have a question.
Just ask for it there. Yep.
So, book 3, Valiant, the third skill. Valiant, I don't know how to pronounce that.
Valiant Bulwark, yeah.
Yeah. So, I've been casting it over our katas and over our rams, assuming that it would block the projectiles that were coming down from the ramparts of whatever we were attacking.
It reflects projectiles, however, it reflects player projectiles. It's not going to reflect the ACs.
Okay,
ACs
so I
will
actually
go
have to drop it on top of someone or on top of an enemy catapult.
No. You will have to drop it on top of our players, and it will reflect projectiles. And they have to be inside the bubble. However,
Okay.
it's not going to stop ACs.
Oh, okay.
Will it stop field effects like the Ranger's Longbow 5, the Barrage? Or is that
Yes. Yes.
4? Okay.
What it will reflect also the golems, the Omega Golems rockets. It will reflect those, but it will not reflect ACs. So this is not a solution to all kinds of problems type of thing.
I think it also reflects grenades from an NG, won't it?
Yep. Because it's a projectile.
The one thing about that, though, is it will not realign the arc of the mortar kit, so it will usually just hit a wall.
Yeah, because the mortar kit doesn't come in a direct line. It will reflect it in sort of the direction it hits the shield, because it comes in an arc, like it's falling down. It will just reflect it back up, and it will just go somewhere randomly. It's not going to hit back the enemy. All right. Well, I think that's it.
Can I just do a quick rundown here? So, initial phase of the engagement, you're in your staff.
Yes.
You drop your line. You drop your nuke. Fine. As the two groups move to engage, you swap to the shield.
Yes.
4-3
Yep.
for extra Aegis and protection. As the groups actually merge, there's a stand your ground, and you swap to Tome 3.
A little bit earlier than actually merge. You don't want to be popping it too late, because it's when we are within their the ability of them to main bomb us. So we're approaching them, and now the actual exchange of damage is starting to happen. Then you're popping it.
All right, so
You're
it's
not
reactive
waiting-
to their spike.
Yes. Well, usually the tag will call for big stab, so you're listening to that or stand your
Okay.
ground. But that is the in general, that's when you want to do it, because it still has like a timer. It's 10 seconds. You don't want to pop it too early because it might expire, or it's not gonna be consumed. So you want to make full use of it. So it's on the approach, you're popping it, and then you're on top of them.
Okay.
Keep in mind that when you're moving and you click it, it still takes a second for it to happen, even though it has a very quick. It's supposed to be instant. So, this distance away, if you're moving right here, let's give it 2 seconds for it to recharge. So I'm moving forward, right? The enemy is at the marker. I pop it right here. I've already moved another 2-3 steps forward by the time its effect is on us, right? So you do it a little bit earlier, but you'll get a feel for it. Most often the tag will tell you when.
Okay, so once the stand your ground and the Hallowed Ground have been called for or have been used and the two groups merge, then you switch to the third tome.
Yes, as soon as you've gone through 4-3, you go into tome 3. And then you're popping 5 right away. And you're popping 4 usually on the first engage, because that's gonna be the biggest bomb. On the first engage, it's the biggest bomb. Your biggest bomb and their biggest bomb, because you have all your skills and it's the most coordinated. When the fight starts, then things are a little more disjointed. The better coordinated a group, the better they'll do secondary spikes. However, the biggest bomb you can expect from the enemy is that initial hit.
Okay. And then you just, most of the time, you just sit in tome 3 until you run out of pages, and you're just periodically using your mantras to keep
Yes,
people
exactly.
unstunned and with Aegis.
Aegis, quickness, and additional stacks of stability as needed, because your tome 5, when you get to 100% boon duration, your skill 5 on tome 3 is 10-second duration. It's also 10-second recharge. So it is basically perfect. Now, if you wait for it to appear to click it, there's still time between your click and it generates, so there is a second there. To bridge that gap, you can use a charge of your mantra.
Okay, I think I have the basics of it now.
All right. Any other questions? For the actual build, you're using minstrels, and let me just open it real quick so I can give you the names, because I'm bad with names and I don't want to make mistakes. So you're using minstrels on everything, essentially. You're using concentration infusions to get the concentration up to 100%, and the sigils. On the staff, you're using Sigil of Concentration, which gives you 10% boon duration, and you're using Superior Sigil of Bounty. This is Superior Sigil of Bounty gets charged up to 25 stacks, each one giving you an additional 9 concentration. Once that's charged, no matter what weapon you're in, you're gonna get that bonus to concentration, and that will get you to 100% boon duration.
It's active even when the other set is out?
Yep.
That's nuts.
And on your Mace Shield, you have a Superior Sigil of Transference for some additional healing. And you have Superior Sigil of Concentration for boon duration. Now, the reason I don't have an energy sigil is because I'm the tag and I don't want to have more dodges than my squad has. So I will only have 2 dodges. So at any time, if I have a dodge I know that my squad must have one as well. If you need an extra dodge, you can switch out the sigil of transference and put a sigil of energy there for an extra dodge. Your runes. Now, we're using the superior rune of durability here because it gives additional toughness, it gives additional wound duration, and increases your max health. Also, it grants for 3 seconds regeneration and grants resistance when struck for the first time. So it helps for bridging into that tone 5. If we get hit just before we've gone into tone 5, we still have that 1 second of resistance. Time for us to go into tone 5 and have skill 5 and skill 4 down. The additional resistance keeping us going. It's a good one. There's some other alternatives here. Runes of the Monk are good for healing if you're doing the Firebrand. However, for this build, the better one is Runes of Durability for that reason.
I'll just add that if you're using a Sigil of Bounty on one of your weapons, you'll want to also put it on your water weapon, because you'll lose that bounty if you jump in the water.
Yes. Any of those
no.
sigils that get charged, you need to have them on a water weapon. Otherwise, whenever you go underwater, you lose the stacks. All right. Well, that concludes the training. Any other questions?
Does it also happen with Bloodlust?
Yes, it happens with all of them. All of the ones that get charged on kills, you need to have a weapon with the same sigil for underwater, or whenever you go underwater, you lose the stacks. All right. Well, if you're on a Firebrand just for the training, go switch out to something else and let's go kill some people.